And the other one is basically what people refer to as hate speech, which is, I think, also comes from a good place of wanting to crack down on that, of wanting to promote more inclusion and belonging, people feeling good, like having a pluralistic society that can basically have all these different communities coexist. But I think the problem is that you just, all these things are on a spectrum, and when you go too far on them, I think on that side, you just basically got to this point where there were these things that you just couldn't say for mainstream discourse, right? So, it's like Pete Hegseth is going to, probably be defending his nomination for Secretary of Defense on the Senate floor, and I think one of the points that he's made is that he thinks that women shouldn't be able to be in certain combat roles, and until we updated our policies, that wouldn't have been a thing that you could have said on our platforms, because it's called the exclusion of a protected category of people. And it's like, okay, on its face, yeah, calling for the exclusion of a protected category, that seems that that's okay. There's legal protections, there's all this stuff, but okay, if it's okay to say on the floor of Congress, you should probably be able to debate it on social media. Yeah. So I think some of this stuff, I think well-intentioned, needs to just get rationalized a bit. But it's those two categories, misinformation and hate speech, I think, are the ones that got politicized. All the other ones, which is the vast majority of the stuff that we do, is I think people generally agree that it's good to go after it. But then you just get into this problem with the states, like you're talking about. Okay, well, what confidence level do people want us to have in our enforcement? And at what point do people rather us kind of say, okay, I'm not sure that one has caused an issue. So on balance, maybe we should just leave that person's account out, because the pain of just nuking someone's account when you're not sure or you make a mistake, that's pretty real too.
Right. Yeah, very, very complicated.
Yeah.
It's all very nuanced. And, you made a point earlier about the government supporting its companies, that it would be a good thing for the government to support its companies. It makes sense. It's an American company. I think the issue that we're dealing with is companies, as we're describing them, have never existed before, right? There's never been a thing like Facebook before. There's never been a thing like Twitter before, or X. There's never been a thing like Instagram. These are new things in terms of the impact that it has on society, on opinions, on conversations, on distribution of information. There's never been a thing like this that the government didn't control. So it makes sense from their perspective, continuing the patterns of behavior that they've always exhibited, which is to have control of the media. I mean, there has been CIA operatives that have been in major newspapers forever. There's always been that. There's always been this sort of input that the government had in mainstream media narratives. They are in a position now where they're losing that. They've essentially lost it, and especially with this the push during COVID deteriorated, as we were saying before, the opinion and the respect that people have for the facts that are coming from mainstream journalism in a way that I've never seen before in my life, where an enormous percentage of the population does not trust mainstream media anymore. So, well, what do they trust? They trust social media. Well, who's running that? Well, there are a bunch of people who figured it out and invented it. Well, no, fuck that. We've got to crack down on that. We've got to get our hands on this, which is what we saw during COVID, which we saw during the Biden administration's attempt to remove the Hunter Biden laptop story from Twitter, and from all these different things that we saw happen, the way they contacted you guys, what they're trying to do with getting you to remove real information about vaccine side effects, like that. This is this new attempt to crack down on this new thing, which is a distribution outlet that's far more successful than anything they've ever controlled before, and they have no control over it, right? They had CBS, they had NBC, they had, when they had the New York Times and all this Washington Post, when they were in control of narratives in that way, it was so much easier.